In this example, we're going to solve a rational inequality. Rational, remember, a rational number is is a fraction. So we're talking about an inequality that has a fraction. Yeah, that's all it is, a rational inequality. What we want to do to solve this is we want one fraction less than or equal to, and here we want a 0. So we want to add these together. So to add these, 1 we can think of as x minus 4 over x minus 4. Because anything over itself is 1. Why did I pick x minus 4? Because we need a common denominator to add fractions. Now that we have a common denominator, we can add the numerators. X plus x gives us 2x. 3 plus negative 4 is negative 1. And that's divided by our common denominator, which is x minus 4. So that's what we get when we add these together, and that result is less than or equal to 0. Now what we do is we do the same thing as we did with quadratic inequalities. We want to know on what intervals is this positive or negative, and when is this positive or negative. Why? Because if this is positive and this is negative, well, a positive divided by a negative is a negative, which is less than 0. So to figure that out, we do almost the same thing we did with quadratic inequalities. Look at when is the numerator and when is the denominator 0. This is equal to 0. 2x minus 1 is 0. If I add 1 and divide by 2, we get a half. So if I add 1, we get 2x equals 1. Divide by 2, and we get x is a half. So we know that a half is one part of our interval. Let me put like the quadratic inequalities, let me put a divider in there. So that's when the numerator is 0. The denominator is 0 when x is 4. Let me put a 4 here. Now we do the same idea with quadratic inequalities. In each of these intervals, we need to know what is the sign of the numerator, 2x minus 1, and what is the sign of the denominator, x minus 4. And then we just divide them, take the sign of this, divide it by the sign of this, and see what the overall result is. Is it positive or negative? Is it negative, less than 0, or not? Well, pick any number less than a half. I'm going to pick 0. 0 minus 1 is a negative. 0 minus 4 is a negative. Well, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So down here, the thing's greater than 0, not less than 0. What about between here and here? Well, pick any number. I'm going to pick 3. 2 times 3 is 6 minus 1 is a positive. 3 minus 4 is a negative. And a positive divided by a negative is a negative. I'll pick a number bigger than 4. Let me pick 5. 10 minus 1 is 9, which is positive. 5 minus 4 is a positive. And a positive divided by a positive is a positive. So now we want to know when is our fraction, our rational expression, negative, less than 0. Less than 0 is negative. When is it negative? Between 1/2 and 4. Now, the original problem has an equal, so we usually put an equal here, but there's one thing you got to check. You got to remember, when you have a fraction, the denominator can't be 0. Because if we get 0, remember, any number divided by 0, it's undefined. We don't know what it's equal to. So we can't ever let x equal 4. So we can't let this part be an equal because x can never be 4. If x was 4 again, we get division by 0. That's undefined, so that's not allowed. But we can let x equal a half, because when we plug in a half, that will make 0 over some number, which is just 0, and that's equal to 0, which we included. So this is the answer in inequality notation. How do we write it in interval notation? Well, these are all the numbers from 1/2 up to 4. There's an equal but next to the half, so that's a bracket. There's no equal here, so that's a parentheses. So this is the answer using interval notation. This is the answer using inequality notation.